Hey there, Cosmic Warriors, and welcome back to another video. And if you are new here, my name is Hannah. I am a Western Practical Astrologer, and I'm here today to talk all about Pisces, the archetype of Pisces. I really hope that you enjoy this presentation. Hello, Eddie. You said you're first, so welcome to you. And I also just want to take a moment to say happy birthday to all of you Pisceans out there. If you've got your sun in Pisces, this is your birthday season. Shine bright. I hope you have a lovely birthday. Okay, so let's get into this archetype. I have quite a bit of information to share with you. So Pisces season is around about the 18th of February until the 19th of March. Well, it is this year. You have to sort of remember with astrology, give or take like a day, two max. Just depends on the year. But I do also want to mention as well that I have some astrology products available. You can find astrology guides, the 2024 calendars there. Of course, can you believe we're 2 months in to 2024? 2 months. That is crazy to me. It always flies in so quick. It seems like it's faster every year. But yes, you can find guides, ebooks, everything, cheat sheets over at hannahselsewhere.com. Even if you're interested in booking a reading with me, you can do so via my website. And I do want to take a moment to say thank you so much to my patrons over at Patreon for all of your support. There's actually a new video up there early right now. It is a video all about aspect patterns and chart shapes, as well as the guide to go right along with it. So if you're interested in that, you can always become a member. Daily forecasts are available over there too. Right, so we're going to get into the main components. If you just give me a moment so I can keep track of all of the timings, and maybe that'll be a good opportunity for people to come in. Thank you so much for being here. And again, I want to say happy birthday to all of the solar Pisceans out there. Okay, so the main components. Hello, Rachel. Hello, explainer of mysteries. You say that you're second then as well. Right. We are going to explore the main components. If I actually just retrieve something here and more, and then we can really get started. But yes, I hope you are doing good. We did have that triple Pisces conjunction a couple of days ago. Right, let me see. Radio. So we're going to get into these main components now. Hello to Angela as well. Welcome to you. Very special year for Pisces, indeed. I mean, with Neptune especially, coming to the end of that very soon, being in your sign. All right, so we're going to now, if I just put on the timer so we can get this nice. There we go. Okay, so let's go over these main components. The symbol of Pisces is, of course, the two fish. Now, this is a highly symbolic symbol. I mean, all symbols are, right? But with Pisces, this is especially symbolic because this is really about the yin yang. This is about karma. And when we even explore, the mythology of Pisces, so when we think about the Greek mythology of Pisces, of course, I have created a video about the Greek mythology, Mesopotamian and Egyptian. But the story of Pisces, well, Pisces is connected with the story of Aphrodite and Eros. The story goes that a Greek god under the name of Typhon. So Typhon was this deadly monster who really wanted to kill the other gods. So he was on this killing spree, right? And Typhon was actually described as this giant. And Typhon had the upper body of a man along with the legs. So his legs consisted of snakes. And his head was also a collection of dragon heads, and he had wings. So, yeah, I mean, safe to say, Typhon was pretty terrifying, and was very strong, was a very powerful god. But you see, the other gods did not treat Typhon well. They didn't treat him with acceptance or respect. He was actually treated as an outcast. But one day, Typhon had enough of their rejection, and so what he did is he sought revenge. And so, with the gods being frightened of Typhon, they fled. And as Typhon was approaching Mount Olympus, Aphrodite, aka Venus, and her son, aka Eros, her son Eros, aka Cupid, my mistake, find themselves desperate. They were desperate. They were in need of an escape. So, what Aphrodite and her son Eros did, so we think about Venus and Cupid, they turned into fish and they swam to safety. But they were tied together by a cord. And this cord was to make sure that they did not lose one another. Now, another version of the myth suggests that two other fish took them to safety whilst they were fish. But whatever the case, really, okay, the whole point of this was escaping, getting away, escaping Typhon. And apparently as well, Pan, we think about Pan to do with Capricorn, warned the others before he then changed into the goatfish. So this is an interesting myth to think about, because we notice that when it comes to Pisces, there's a part of Pisces that can escape. You even think about the fish, those fish swimming away for protection, going into hiding. And the other thing is that Pisces can look at, Pisces can be associated with disguise. And there is also this, I suppose, magical, majestic side to Pisces. You know, Pisces, I think, can be associated with things like magic. But there is that part of Pisces, I think, that can sort of shapeshift, you know, the sort of shape-shifting, turning into different versions, perhaps of itself or of other people. Pisces can be a highly mirroring sign. So it's a tricky sort of archetype to think about, because Pisces can sort of be whatever you want Pisces to be. And I think that's where the sort of slight confusion can come in, because it's like, well, who are you? Who is Pisces? But Pisces acts as this type of mirror, right? Pisces can sort of even absorb other people's energy. And you may even notice that throughout Pisces season is our tendency of sort of picking up on other people's emotions around us. And of course, this could be in a positive, beneficial way. So for instance, if you are around people who are quite happy, or they're joyous, they're feeling good, maybe you also absorb a bit of that, or you take a bit of that. You may be more sensitive basically to those emotions. But then with the same token, if people are more negative, a bit more low, then we can also pick up on these types of feelings too, right? But Of course, it doesn't have to be so extreme like this. It depends really on what emotion is being presented and how things are happening on this feeling based level, feelings based level. And the other thing about it is that with the fish, so if we think about how there are the two fish, there is this dual nature to Pisces, right? So there is a part of Pisces that is very much in the world and is part of every day and can get on with normal sort of tasks in everyday life. But there's another side to Pisces that, as the myth was suggesting, that escapes, that would much rather remove itself from social events, from work. Pisces can become overwhelmed basically by it all. And so Pisces is certainly a sign that really needs to unplug, right? Pisces needs to remove itself, especially from people who are not the best for them, because the thing about this is that Pisces, in my opinion, is the most easily impressionable sign. So they can be influenced by others a lot more easily when compared to the other signs. This may not be a conscious thing for them. I actually think that this is more of an unconscious thing that tends to happen. But of course, with Pisces also comes the whole thing of making what is unconscious conscious. This is actually a big part of what Pisces teaches us. It's how to make what is unconscious conscious. But the unconscious tied to Pisces, it's different to that of the unconscious tied to Scorpio, for example. Even Cancer, Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces, all of the water signs, they are linked to the unconscious realm. So I suppose with Cancer, it's more about those cycles, like the conditioning. You kind of think about being really young, more childhood stuff. When you are easily impressionable, right? You absorb everything like a sponge and you don't even know that it's happening, right? Because, of course, you're just a child. There's innocence in that. So, yeah, Cancer can look at those unconscious like patterns and cycles. There's that repetition that happens. But then you get to Scorpio, and Scorpio, I feel, is more so associated with whenever you get into a, let's just say, notable, significant relationship. We especially think about intimate relationships to do with Scorpio. Whenever we enter these relationships, what often happens is they trigger us. Okay. Of course, they trigger us because they're so, we think, we think that they're so not like us. It's like, that bothers me. Oh, I really like that about you. But you may not see the things that you like or dislike in other people. You may not see those qualities within yourself. So the unconscious part of Scorpio comes in and it says, look at this. Really, look. Take a good hard look at yourself. Explore your triggers, explore your reactions, go maybe even reflect and kind of go back to childhood a bit. This is also where we see how, the eighth house Scorpio energy is associated with psychology. You think about as well the therapy elements to the eighth house and Scorpio, the investigative sort of qualities. It's like, what's hidden there? What's locked away in the subconscious, and what can be brought to light? And then there's integration. that can occur. But then we get to Pisces. And Pisces sort of takes the unconscious world to a whole other level. And I don't mean necessarily a deeper level. I mean more of a wider sort of, more into dreams, for instance. I mean, when we think about dreams, they're highly symbolic. And dreams, whilst we can interpretate dreams, it's still the dream world that is highly mysterious. Okay, Pisces is very mysterious. And I think that sort of part of Pisces shows us that there is actually so much that we don't actually know. And a lot of people, we want to figure out the meaning of life, basically, right? We want to figure out, why am I here? Why do I exist? What is this reality? Is it an illusion? Is time even real? Am I dreaming? Am I actually, when I'm in my conscious state, am I in my unconscious state, and vice versa? How do I know, really, right? These sort of questions are very Piscean, very Piscean. And you can get lost. This is also the challenge with this energy. And I suppose Neptune and Pisces has been bringing up a lot of these themes for us as a collective, right? But you can get lost. And this is where Saturn, I feel, has been very, very useful to us. Saturn has been coming along and has been highlighting the significance of healthy boundaries, healthy sort of grounding practices, trying not to sort of get carried away in the oceans of mystery. Because it's possible to go too far down that rabbit hole, right? And where you completely lose all sense of reality, you lose the ability to function. If you lose the ability to function within your everyday life, that is an issue. That is where you perhaps need support. But you see, then this is where we get to, again, the unconscious, right? We get to the matters related to the 12th house and Pisces. So we think about hospitals, we think about mental health, addiction, anything that you take as a way to escape this world, right? These things, very Pisces. So when we bring this back then to the unconscious linked to Pisces, dreams are very much a part of this sign. Dream interpretation. And then the other thing is, like I was saying earlier, making the unconscious conscious. So, for instance, we can dive further into the unknown. We can dive further into the mysteries of life. And then there's greater awareness that can be brought forward from that. There's perhaps greater understanding about what our meaning is. And of course, we get into the whole stuff to do with spirituality, right? People's spiritual values and people's spiritual beliefs, etc. But again, these things, they're not like fact, do you know what I mean? These matters are not factual. It's like, it's not a fact that there is a God, and I don't say that I'm not saying that as a way to challenge anybody's beliefs or anything like that. I'm just simply trying to articulate what Pisces as an archetype is about. Pisces says there's always this little likelihood that you don't know, And that's okay, right? Pisces is just surrender to that. But at the same time, does this mean we shouldn't have a spiritual practice? Does this mean that we shouldn't believe in God or believe in a higher power? Does this mean we shouldn't pray? Does this mean we shouldn't study astrology? You know, these different tools, right? I don't think so. I think at the same with the same token, if there is this unknowingness about Pisces, well then who's to know that other people don't know or they know? If that makes sense. Right? If it's not a factual thing, then it could be true, right? So I think that this is where we get into I suppose if you look at the fish, they're sort of just chasing each other. I mean, they're not really going anywhere. They're just going in this circle motion, round and round and round and round and round. And that is within itself this very karmic quality to Pisces, right? Reincarnation, for example. There's so many people that believe that we reincarnate and that our souls we choose to be here, right? Now, personally, I don't agree to that. I personally don't believe that my soul chose this life, you know. But does that mean that I don't respect other people's views on that? No, I am just like, because at the same time, could have, right? My soul could have. I don't actually know. So it could have, it might not have, but it's, you know, it's this, the point being that this forever in motion, uh the forever in motion flow of the fishes, I think represents the karmic lessons to do with Pisces, to do with the reality we live in. It's linked to that of reincarnation, right? You know, when it comes to reincarnation, for instance, my views on it could change. They could change, and that could come from reading a new book or watching someone who is remarkable, or, you know, seeing more sort of clear evidence coming into it. You know, I have a lot of Aquarius energy, so I tend to also show a level of skepticism when it comes to certain things, which is, it's interesting, but I don't completely limit myself, right? So I'm still relatively open to new information. But the point being, yeah, Pisces is linked to reincarnation and karma. Past lives is another thing to do with Pisces, right? So who were you in a past life? You know, the nodes even look at past lives in this way. So the South Node can often tell you about your past life. And all these other sort of spiritual qualities to do with Pisces. You know, thinking about the likes of meditation, yoga, breath work is a big one. And sleep would also be quite useful and beneficial. You know, the importance of sleep as well. So basically, there's so much to talk about when it comes to Pisces. And just in general, you know, when we think about these two fish, there is the yin yang, right? This forever changing in motion energy. Even the two fish signifies duality. And you look at the very glyph of Pisces as well. So if we just explored that a moment, I've talked quite a bit actually about Pisces as a whole here. But if you just give me a moment, get the. So let's think about here how this symbol shows the two fish and they're connected together by the cord. Remember in the mythology. Isn't that so fascinating? But the fish are swimming in opposite directions. This signifies duality. So one fish swims towards the light, but the other swims towards the dark. There is this very pulling energy, this conflicted energy when it comes to Pisces. I think it's funny when I think about it. I think of Pisces as there's a part of Pisces that wants to be more like, the whole spiritual side of things of peace, or no, it's love and light and sending love to people and compassion and everything. But then there's another side of Pisces that's like, I will destroy you in your dreams, like I'm going to curse you, it's like, I'm going to watch you burn, like Pisces can go to these really, like anger. The anger from Pisces can get really, oh, heated. It's interesting. It's an interesting one. Even kind of think about Poseidon, the god Poseidon, tied to Pisces and Neptune. And Poseidon got into some serious rages in his day, especially over territory, over land, over unfairness and stuff like this. So yeah, Poseidon was the god of the sea, well, the god of the oceans, all water, basically. Now, with the symbol again, or the glyph, this can represent these two opposing forces that take place within Pisces, all right? So another way to look at it is one side that is concerned with being part of society, but then the other side that would much rather disconnect, hide away, lock themselves away, pull the curtains over, right? And just be like, I'm done. I'm done with today. You tend to get a lot of Pisceans who are night owls. I'm curious, do you have Pisces energy in your chart? Would you consider yourself to be a night owl? Let me know. Do you tend to sleep in the morning? Is that what you prefer? If you are like this, we could not live together. Like, we would not get on. We would not get on very well. But anyway, there is still this side to Pisces that is practical and can commit, but there's another side that is quite idealistic and fluid. And as I was saying earlier, Pisces is a very impressionable sign, easily influenced by others, by the environment, especially by people who, go to them with like, this happened, and Pisces is just like, oh, let me take care of you. It's gonna be okay. I'll make all the pain go away. So yeah, Pisces genuinely does care about the suffering and the pain of humanity. They feel empathy. They feel compassion for other people. It's just that this can also set them up for being emotionally manipulated in this regard, where people can kind of pull on their heartstrings. And that's partly why I was saying about the sob story, because you can sort of, that can sort of happen, right? Where it's like, oh, I'm going to emotionally manipulate this situation, so Pisces will be there for me. But we got to think about this from the opposite way, right? Because Pisces, we love you, Pisces. But I got to keep things somewhat balanced. And maybe this is where we're going to get into the strengths and weaknesses later on. But Pisces can also be kind of manipulative itself, right? Pisces can have very twisted thoughts, very, very dark, sinister thoughts. Yes, they can go to really dark places in their minds, even when it comes to their actions. The sign can turn to the likes of drugs, unhealthy ways of coping, escaping, this type of stuff. Prone to addiction in this way, deceptive thoughts as well, sort of like thoughts that aren't true. They're not actually rooted in reality. They can imagine things as well. So, in this way, it's really, really important for Pisceans to take care of themselves, right? To take care of their mental health, their emotional health as well. Even just seeing how they're really connected. They're very much connected. And to unplug from all of the sort of destructions of the world, it's having a sort of healthy attachment. Having a healthy attachment rather than it being about, I have no boundaries, I'm giving you my all, right? It's like, okay, how can we try and set healthy boundaries here. So Pisces, I feel, is learning how to do that. But yeah, at the same time, Pisces is very much tied to cosmic forces. Um, and at the same time, how humanity, well, how certain human beings can manipulate such forces to their own benefit. So I'm going to say that, mind control, delusions, smokes and mirrors, right? I'm going to present to you like I'm all sweet as pie and everything's great, great, great. But is that true? It's these types of things that come up, walking around in a daze, chaotic, these things. Right, so let's move on because I've talked a lot about Pisces, the symbol. I hope that you were able to get a lot from it. So, like I said, Pisces is also a water sign. So, water, very intuitive, very much in tune with their emotions, their feelings. But then at the same time, Pisces is a mutable water sign. So, this is sort of where the absorption of other people's feelings and emotions comes into it. Like I was saying earlier, the whole thing to do with how they can be easily impressionable. Their moods can very much rule them. Okay, similar to that of Scorpio and Cancer as well. But you can perhaps notice that when it comes to the moods of Pisces, they are a lot more flexible and adaptable. And that, of course, can play out in many different ways, just depending on the situation. I would even say in this regard that Pisces, so if you think about the mutable water, can become very involved when it comes to other people's emotions as well, sort of wanting to spread their compassion or their kindness or their empathy toward others. And this, I think, is a really powerful thing too, right? I think this is a beautiful thing as well. In that when Pisces has established like a genuine connection with another person, they are so completely devoted and loving and generous, and they give like, oh, this mutable water is like, just I'm giving all of my emotion here. And that can be so beautiful. They can be highly like romantic and poetic. um and then we also kind of think about how with that, there needs to be a little bit of a bit of an awareness of how others, how they in return treat Pisces. This again is where we get to the healthy boundaries, and recognizing when Pisces is losing themselves in others. It's also being able to say, like, okay, but I can also see my individuality, which Pisces can learn from Aries. We'll talk about that in a moment. But yeah, so mutable water, very flexible and adaptable emotions and feelings and intuition. Right, so we're going to talk about the 12th house in the next slide, but let's explore quickly the two ruling planets of Pisces. We've got the traditional ruler, which is Jupiter, and then we have the modern day ruler, which is Neptune. So let's think about Jupiter to begin with. The symbol of Jupiter, it sort of shows what looks like the number 4, but also it looks like a Z, sort of looks like a Z. And this is interesting because Zeus is connected with Jupiter within Greek mythology. Zeus was the ruler of the heavens, and Jupiter then signifies this a heavenly spirit. Jupiter symbolizes the self no longer sort of being restricted by Earth, suggesting that Jupiter looks at expansion, eternity. Jupiter's very much tied to our beliefs within astrology, of course, religion, philosophy, all these questions to do with why are we here? What is my meaning? What is my purpose? It looks at the superconscious self. It also looks at the higher self. So it's really the higher self that is viewed as it's viewed as an individual being tied to the heavens above. And Jupiter then symbolizes our ability to really question, like I said, what our meaning is. What is life all about? Who created this earth? Jupiter looks at guidance, it looks at our direction. Jupiter can also be a highly inspirational planet as well. So then when we sort of look at Neptune, we want to sort of combine it. Neptune, if we look at the symbol, can be depicted as a trident. And this is an interesting one, seeing as Neptune is associated with Poseidon, right? The god of the seas. And Poseidon was also depicted carrying a trident. And the trident shows 3 arrows pointing up the way towards the heavens, then representing this upward ascension, right? There's this ascending quality to this glyph. And then the cross underneath, it's looking at how we're still, as humans, we're still earthbound, right? And that again is this other way of describing Pisces, in that, like I said earlier, there's a part of Pisces that's very much a part of this world, but there's another part of Pisces that's connected in with with everything else, and is sort of, I suppose, seeking some type of transcendence. There's that spiritual side. There is the side that doesn't really want to be part of this world, or would rather sort of escape. And there can be healthy ways of escaping too, right? There can be. And then also the symbol of Pisces can be associated with, like I said, it's all things spiritual on one hand, but simultaneously being associated with anything that causes suffering and pain on the other hand. We can often find ourselves just ridden with the likes of misery, deception, deceit. You may have also found over the past few days with the Mercury, Sun, Saturn conjunctions there in Pisces that these themes really came up. I know that I felt these themes. But we as humans can rise up into higher levels by embodying qualities of compassion, kindness, forgiveness. But essentially, Neptune is strongly associated with enlightenment, intuition, healing as well. All right, there are these healing qualities to Neptune, and then spiritual growth. Of course, then at the same time, it can be associated with illusions, confusion, and just feeling lost, feeling hopeless, feeling really directionless. So these things that I talk about when it comes to both Neptune and Jupiter, you can find these qualities within Pisces, right? There's a part of Pisces that can be really very inspired and inspirational to those around them. There can be a part of Pisces that is positive and optimistic, sees the glass as half full, right? My dreams will come true. But there can also be the side of Pisces where it's like, I'm suffering, I'm in misery, I'm in pain, believing sort of deceptive thoughts, deceptive beliefs about themselves, about other people. There can be the paranoia, there can be the fears, the phobias associated with this sign. And if such matters do become too much for Pisces, it's really, really important for them to seek some type of help and assistance. Right. So we're going to now move on to the 12th house. Well, actually, before we do, just to let you know, the body parts. So as most of you probably know, Pisces is tied to, well, the area that Pisces rules, the body part Pisces rules, would be the feet. So we think about how we start from Aries with the head, we get to the final sign, which is Pisces, and then that would be the feet. But Pisces, it's interesting because I think of like the flippers, like fish, kind of like, is that what I'm saying? Is that what I'm trying to get at? Help with swimming, basically, right? The feet helps us with swimming. Anyway, flippers. Just my funny half hour. But the other thing I want to mention is Pisces can rule the immune system, the lymph glands. So the immune system, of course, is so important. We need to have a healthy immune system. But when we look to the lymph glands, or they're also known as the lymph nodes, they are small lumps of tissue that contain white blood cells, and these apparently help to fight bacteria, viruses, and anything else that causes infection. So they're an important part of the immune system, and they're found throughout the body. So Pisces is associated with these body parts, which is very, very interesting, I think. Okay, so we're going to move on to the 12th house. And I'm going to actually have a look through your comments today. Thank you for being here. The shapeshifter, yes. Yes, a dog. What was it? You said a dog chasing its tail. Uh-huh. It can feel like that. Okay. So we're going to get into the 12th house here. So this is the house that Pisces rules. And when we look to the 12th house, I suppose I have touched on a lot of this already, but the 12th house can look at things like hospitals. You think about mental health and where we go for help when it comes to our mental health. But hospitals, just in general, you think about getting better, getting well. Pisces, you see, can even be a very service orientated sign, similar to that of Virgo, actually. Both Virgo and Pisces have this serving quality to them. And the thing is about Pisces is that Pisces will also feel. Like Pisces is going to feel very emotional about things related to helping others and giving back to others, giving to charity, for example, just even being there as a way to assist someone who is unwell. But of course, the thing about it is Pisces themselves could be the ones who are unwell too, right? So again, it sort of goes back to those different sides of Pisces. And Pisces too is highly selfless. It's a very selfless sign, sort of willing to put other people before them, always thinking about other people. And so there can be that empathy, and this empathy as well can show up within the 12th house. So the 12th house can look at, I suppose, certain sacrifices that we make as a way to maybe be there for others, right? And to be selfless in this regard. We, even in the 12th house, we tend to dissolve the ego. It's very much a house of dissolving the ego, letting go, and I suppose at the same time, recognizing that by doing so, we will not be our own downfall. Because the thing about the 12th house at the same time is it can be where our greatest downfall shows up, where there is this self-undoing, where it's us who are the ones who create these issues in our lives, so we can be our own self-undoing, essentially. So it is important to think about these things in relation to the 12th house in terms of what's keeping you back from, for example, being the best version of yourself. What's keeping you back from wanting to live the life that you really want to live? So there is this side of the 12th house that makes us really consider our shadow, what's hidden. Again, it goes back to the unconscious, and hopefully being able to make the unconscious conscious, and instead of falling victim to the unconscious, because a lot of us can sort of walk around in this somewhat unconscious state where we don't recognize our gifts, we don't recognize our strengths, or perhaps we're not aware of our weaknesses either, right? The 12th house can look at our hidden gifts, it can look at our hidden strengths, but it can also look at our hidden weaknesses. But I think the whole hidden side of it is more about these things are unconscious, you just don't see them. So there's a lot to work with, basically, when it comes to the 12th house, and it's certainly not a black and white thing, and it's certainly not linear. This process, it's very fluid and flexible. And the process within itself is spiritual. There's this sort of spiritual journey that we embark on, I suppose you could say. But when it comes to spirituality, it's not just, I became aware of something, or I became more enlightened to something, and now I'm all good. It's fine and dandy. I'm a better version of myself now, and I'm going to go about my life. Spirituality can actually be full of many downs, and having to sit with heavier emotions, uncomfortable emotions, really having to take a good hard look at ourselves and why we do the things that we do. So this is the 12th house, right? The 12th house looks at the shadow. It looks at our hidden selves. It's sort of the house that's behind us, so to speak, right? It's behind us in that it's locked away in our deepest unconscious states. And so it's about how you really bring those qualities out and make them work for you rather than against you. But at the same time, I just want to say that I don't think that we ever make what is unconscious fully conscious. I just don't think that that is realistic. And I also don't think that that is what we can really achieve, essentially. I think that could actually be really overwhelming. It's possible basically to become too aware of our own. Let me put it this way. It's possible to become too aware of our own darkness. Even the unconscious mind, it often protects us, doesn't it? So this is the 12th. And I also want to say this is also why it's so essential and it's so important that if you do work with your unconscious, it's important to find professionals. Professionals. When it comes to astrology, we can look at these certain areas. It's like, oh, we can see this in the 12th. It could suggest this. Oh, we can see this in the 7th and the 8th. It can suggest this. But really, when it comes to the unconscious and the more psychological themes, that is where things like psychotherapy can come into play. Different types of therapy can come into play. Even just working with particular professionals and experts who know a lot about how the unconscious actually works, and they're qualified within those areas basically. So yeah, as you can see, there's a lot here to do with the 12th house, but kind of going back to the ego side of it, yeah, the 12th house can also be where we dissolve our ego. Now, is this saying or suggesting that the ego is bad or that it's negative? No. I actually think that the ego can be supportive and that we need a healthy ego. But I think the 12th house is more about whenever it's important to basically assess whenever the ego is running wild, or whenever we don't have a healthy sense of ego, and how that plays out for us. And again, it can depend on these 12th house placements that you have. But let's also mention here that when it comes to the 12th house, it can look at the likes of altered states. So when you're really intoxicated, for example, you're essentially in the 12th house. The 12th house is going to present itself. It's an interesting one. And other sort of course, altered states can show up in, for example, let's go for, music. Whenever you really lose yourself in a really great song and you're just in this whole other world and it's bliss, and you feel the music, you feel the sound, that as well could be a 12th house manifestation. I think the 12th house can be associated with music in this way. You even think about the fantasy stuff to do with the 12th house. We think about Hollywood and film and media, magazines and the paparazzi and then pose for me, baby. It's, oh, and I suppose as well, PORN, there's these sort of qualities, the glamour, right? The glitz, the glam. Um, it's a whole new world, right? The 12th house can really look at the make believe. And I think that this is the really like beautiful thing at the same time about the 12th house, because what you often find when it comes to artists, you think about painters, musicians, actors, what they're essentially doing is they are tapping into their 12th house. They are able to, for example, like a painter or a writer, they're able to take what is within the unconscious and have this stream, this flow of consciousness, right? Where they're not judging it, it just comes out, it just pours onto the page. You may be someone who can do this when it comes to writing. You may be someone who can do this when it comes to photography, or like I said, painting or cooking, for example, right? Where just things just flow, it pours out and you don't necessarily even have to think about it. And this perhaps is also where blessings and gifts could come into the equation linked to the 12th house. But yes, the 12th house can look at the fantasy world. It can look at what we're watching basically on YouTube and what we're watching when it comes to movies and films. These things take us to another world, another reality. This is an altered state. This is the 12th house. This is where we completely let go. And maybe this is also where the dissolving of the ego comes into it, because it's a funny thing. Like, you're dissolving a part of yourself to sort of be engrossed in something different. And maybe this is also where the likes of actors, in a way, they're dissolving their egos and they're stepping into a whole different character. They're developing a whole different sort of ego based on the script and the storyline, whatever. Don't you love the 12th house? Don't you love the 12th house? But the 12th house is also highly spiritual, right? It's very much tied to spirituality. We think about monasteries. We think about gurus. We think about even retreats, certain retreats that you go on. You go to a retreat and it's maybe more of a spiritual retreat. It may not be a spiritual retreat, but the retreat is spiritual within itself. And that spiritual side of it is where you just completely let go. Like, you let go of what your normal everyday life is like, sixth house territory, right? The everyday grind, hustle, 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 this type of stuff to do with the sixth house. Of course, the sixth house is more than that. Just want to say that. But yeah, the 12th house says, hey, I'm going to a whole other world. I even kind of think about it on a very basic level, in that the 12th house can show up as, for example, let's say you've been working all day, you've been working within your role all day, you come home, you have your dinner, you get your pajamas on, and you know what you do? You just sit and you watch a really great documentary, or you read this fantasy novel that you love, or you listen to some awesome like jazz music with a glass of wine. Relaxation, baby. Relaxation. 12th house territory. I've got Leo in my 12th house, and I'm a sucker for reality TV, drama. Give me the drama, okay? Yeah, I also love, I gotta say, I do love true crime. I love true crime shows. But yes, I do like to relax at the end of the day and have a nice bun, a cup of tea, or, some chocolate even with the tea, and just watch a show, watch YouTube even. So, this is the 12th house. And the 12th house in this way can also look at behind the scenes activity. So, for instance, the person you are when you're alone, it's just you, the 12th house comes out. So, for instance, when I'm alone, maybe saying too much about myself. When I'm alone, I love to dance. I love to sing to myself. I love to listen to music. And I will just dance in my room, my living room. And that's fun for me. I enjoy it, right? That's very Leo. That's very Leo in the 12th house. But yes, the 12th house will look at who you are whenever you are completely alone. And also, sleep. What are your sleeping habits? What are your sleeping patterns? Can you fall asleep pretty quickly? Does it take you a while to fall asleep? I personally find it hard at times to sleep, in that my dreams can just be a little bit wild. They were especially wild last night. Actually, very memorably so. It was strange, very strange. The dreams, there was more solidity to the dreams. I don't know, maybe Saturn have something to do with that. Anyway, but it was very interesting, very, very interesting. So the 12th house can look at sleep, rest, escapism. And we have talked about, there can be unhealthy ways of escaping, but there can also be healthy ways of escaping. Libraries as well go tied to the 12th house, and prisons. We see here that prisons are linked to the 12th house. So you kind of think about, especially in the case of prisons, these places of seclusion. I even kind of think of, rehabilitation centers, very much 12th house territory too. And then there is addiction there linked to the 12th house. And addiction can show up in many different ways, whether this be gambling, whether this be PORN, whether this be alcohol, drugs, whatever it may be. Yeah, addiction. Okay, so we have explored the 12th house quite a bit. I'm just going to read through some information from you guys, from you, what? Uh, Hello to Joshua. Hello to Truth. Hi. Hello to Rachel. I think I already said hello to you, Rachel, but hello to you again if I didn't. Hello to Donna. Okay, cool. Thank you for sharing your experiences, and I hope that you are benefiting from this video today. So we're going to now fast forward to this section. I am enjoying this indeed. Indeed. Right. So what we see here is the day of the week that Jupiter is associated with is Thursday. This, of course, is a day of wealth, success, and prosperity. But then we look at here how Jupiter is at home in Pisces. So with Jupiter being in Pisces, this can be a relatively wild visual experience for the person that has it. Just sort of these synchronicities coming up. Often people who have Jupiter in Pisces, there's no real direction. It's just more about an inner knowing, right? It's more about a feeling. It's more about their intuition. You could maybe ask someone who has Jupiter in Pisces, and you ask them, "Oh, why did you choose that one? Why did you go that way?" And Jupiter in Pisces is just like, "I don't know. I just felt it. Just felt like going that way." It just really. So their intuition can be quite strong, and also Jupiter in Pisces individuals, they're going to come from a place of wisdom when it comes to the bigger picture, right? They're going to look at the deeper themes at play, and it's going to touch your soul, right? It's going to hit you in a certain area, and you're like, "Oh, I felt that." Pretty gifted, I would say. They are pretty gifted spiritual leaders, even though they, we think about leaders, they may not see themselves as leaders as such. But still, yeah, gifted when it comes to spirituality, when it comes to teaching as well. People of Jupiter and Pisces can be great teachers, mentors, but they're going to be the types of mentors that are really very empathetic and in tune with what the other people need. So a client, for example, or a group of people that they're teaching or educating, Jupiter in Pisces is going to be really quite gifted at reading the room, I guess you could say. But again, I don't think this is necessarily a conscious thing. I think this is more of a feeling. It's more of an inner knowing, right? And I think as well, Jupiter and Pisces are quite good at picking up on like emotional cues. They can sort of pick up on other people's feelings, and this is where I think a lot of compassion can come into play for people who have Jupiter in Pisces. So really quite a beautiful, I would say, a serene, soothing energy, right? They can certainly soothe others with their message, with their higher message when we think about how Jupiter is linked to the bigger picture and even knowledge too. Okay, so Mercury here in Pisces. So Mercury, when Mercury's in Pisces, it is said to be in detriment. But you see, Mercury's also in its fall in Pisces. I find this interesting when it comes to Mercury because Mercury, so Mercury is at home and it's exalted in Virgo. But then it's in detriment and in its fall in Pisces. So this is the only planet that seems to be in detriment and fall, and then vice versa with home and exalted. So with Mercury, let's think about Mercury for a moment. Mercury is more so tied to facts, right? Facts, logic, reason. So see, it says, these are the facts. And so this is the reason for why I'm making this decision. But Pisces is not so much about this. Now, this is not to say that Pisces doesn't have a side to it. Like, let's think about Pisces in terms of all these different sides, absorbing other people, etc., picking up on information and energies and so on, feelings. Pisces, I do think, can, of course, come from a place of logic and reason. But I think in an overall sense, Pisces can more so look at where you feel like you're being guided the most. So what I kind of think about is, do you ever see the pick a card readings on YouTube? They're actually very, very popular. Very popular. So it says, oh, we'll pick a card reading to do with this relationship or this job. So the whole point of it is I'm being pulled in this direction. This is the card I'm choosing. But there's no logic to it, right? There can't be any logic really or reasoning to why you picked that card. Because you don't even know what's behind each of the cards anyway. So you just go by, okay, my intuition is telling me this one. So you pick it, it's turned around, and then there's a message. Okay? That is very Piscean. This is very Piscean energy. And I even think about reels. So we think about Instagram. I'm pretty sure I've seen a few reels where there's people and they're holding a couple of crystals and they're saying, okay, I have crystals in my hand. I want you to visualize, very Pisces, I want you to visualize how many crystals I have in my hand and what color are the crystals. By the way, this is definitely what happened to me the other day. Okay, this is definitely a personal experience. I was like, three. The colors I got incorrect, but the whole point being that you're supposed to guess these and then see, okay, was your intuition telling you correctly? That's an interesting one, correctly, because that's very like Mercury, isn't it? Okay, the factual stuff, but this here lies the mystery to do with Mercury and Pisces. This kind of slips through your hands type of energy when it comes to this sign. And this, of course, is not to say that when it comes to making decisions, I'm not saying that it's a bad thing or a negative thing to make decisions based on our intuition. I actually think, if anything, Mercury in Pisces shows us the power of being able to work with our intuition. But the thing about our intuition is that it requires practice. It requires practice. If you think about it, we are so consumed by the busyness, by the rush of life, right? Everyday life. You think about even social media and all of the information that's just fired out at us, right? That's just a lot to take in. Also, perhaps why, if you have Mercury in Pisces, it's important to really, really be conscious of what you're consuming. Okay. I have had many years throughout my life where the secondary progressed Mercury was in Pisces. The secondary progressed Mercury is now in Aries in my chart. But for many years of my life, it's like, oh my gosh, when I look back, I realized just how easily impressionable I was by the information I was learning about and watching online. And I was getting carried away by everything, just swept up in this sea and this ocean of information, So the point being, I think it is important to be able to, recognize these themes, to recognize whenever, if you have Mercury in Pisces, when you're being bombarded, where it just feels like your emotions are being tugged in all of these directions because this thing's happening and this thing's happening and oh my gosh, so to be able to bring it back to maybe this place of like a bit of calm, a bit of center, to remove oneself from anything that is too overwhelming, you know. So when we bring it back to the intuition, this is why it's important to practice our intuition. Maybe this is where things like the reels can be helpful. And maybe that's why there's a part of me that's curious about that, because I am intrigued. It's like, is my intuition steering me in the right way? Even something small as, I don't know, going into the supermarket and there's two different types of biscuits. And well, it's the same brand, right? It's the same brand, but there's two different packets of it, right? I'll pick up the first packet and go, okay, I'll get this one. And then I'm looking at the other one and I'm like, actually, maybe I should get this one instead. Oh, yeah, I'll get this one instead. And then I'm like, was my intuition telling me the first one? I don't know. I'm maybe being a little bit silly when I say that, but I hope you kind of get the point that I'm conveying here. That intuition it's something that needs to be practiced, kind of like a muscle. It needs to grow stronger and stronger. And apparently, as well, when it comes to the intuition, it's not so much about the mind, right? It's not really coming from a place of, oh, this is the answer in the logical mind. It's more of a quietness. It's more of a feeling. I've heard it be described as like a whisper before. So maybe this is where having Mercury in Pisces can be a bit of a tricky one. It can be a bit of a tricky one. And because when you sort of think about the intuitive side of it and how even, well, to be very practical about this, and maybe this is where too much of my Virgo comes into it, or maybe this is where a bit of Virgo can help balance this out a bit. But what I was trying to say there is that so when I think about it on a more sort of practical level, is our intuition actually aligned with how society is set up, right? Even if our intuition is swaying us down, it's leading us down a certain path, but is society set up in such a way where that path can be supported? These are questions that I have. Okay. These are questions that I have. But of course, if you have Mercury in Pisces, perhaps you're someone who you really do follow your insights. And I even want to say people who have Mercury in Pisces can be great writers, musicians, artists, dancers. And there's also this openness, right? There's this willingness to learn. There's this willingness to learn new things. There's that adaptable quality to having Mercury in Pisces where you're very much in tune with, okay, I feel like this is the right sort of subject for me, and this aligns with my spiritual values and my spiritual qualities. Now, the last thing I want to say with Mercury being in Pisces is this is perhaps another part of it to do with it being in fall and in detriment, but it's the, when we said about how Mercury looks at the logical mind, it looks at reasoning. Neptune energy, Piscean energy, like I said, it's not so much about logic and reason, but what can come up from this is the likes of delusion, okay? Believing things that are not true. And these things, what do they come through? Thoughts. And I know for me, with the conjunctions that we experienced a few days ago, we had the Saturn, Sun, Mercury conjunctions in Pisces. I was having this, I was experiencing this, where I was like going over and over and over these same scenarios in my head, and I just could not for the life of me slow them down, shut them off. These false narratives, right? These false messages, almost feeling like I almost felt like for a moment where I was going crazy, right? Like, oh, why? So this, I think, is also where things like awareness comes in, meditation comes in, compassion, and challenging those thoughts, challenging them and going, this right here that I'm thinking about, it's not rooted in reality. Where's the evidence? This is where, if you have Mercury and Pisces and you experience these types of moments, it's like ground yourself, lean into Virgo, lean into that sign and go, I'm going to ground myself. I'm going to get a cup of tea. I'm going to go for a walk. I'm going to go outside. Get out of those loops. And again, I think that this is where meditation can be so helpful for people. But then there's other types of spiritual practices you can do. Right. So lastly, let's look at the exaltation here. So Venus is exalted in Pisces. Venus then is associated with love and art and beauty. People with Venus and Pisces, oh my goodness, like great artists, great creatives. They're the ones who will show and present the emotion within their artwork. The emotion is there, and you're like, wow. And these are the people who can influence others with their art, whether they're influencing them in a way where they feel inspired, or maybe they feel like there could be that attraction. They could very well be attractive to many people and through what they create in this regard. Or this could also be where anger could come up, right? There could even be like the darker projections. That's another thing. Pisces is linked to projections, right? The things that we project onto other people, especially because we don't see those qualities within ourselves, or because we are highly uncomfortable with those qualities. Now, those qualities, again, it's not necessarily always negative qualities. These qualities could actually be beneficial and positive. For instance, you could project your own insecurities to do with confidence, for example, because you see that other people are being confident. It's like you see the confidence in others, and maybe that makes you feel uncomfortable because there's a part of you that unconsciously feels like, oh, I'm not very confident. But the whole point of that I'm trying to make is that can actually be positive, because what that is essentially showing you is that, hey, maybe there is a part of you that can be confident. How about you look at that? That can be helpful. That can be healing. Hey, you know what? Pisces energy also says integration. Pisces, you see, dissolves. That this is the archetype that is about dissolving. But it's also about integration. It's also about wholeness. Do you see this? Do you see this? So it is an interesting archetype. It's the type of archetype that, you explain it in a certain way and then you instantaneously have to go the other direction, kind of like the fish. And then you have to recognize that it's yin yang. It's not black and white. And there's so many different layers and nuances and ways to go. But yes, back to Venus in Pisces. These are the people that will really pull you in with their artwork, with their creativity, make you feel something, move you soul. Okay? This is soulful energy. But also, Venus and Pisces individuals can be very selfless when it comes to love, when it comes to relationships. Relationships, of course, could be related to that of romance, business, friendship, even children, right? Their children, their parents. So there can be this selflessness, this sacrificial quality. And yes, okay, these qualities can be really beautiful. We love to see it, Venus in Pisces, but the thing about it is that there can also be this slippery slope in that you can fall into a place of merging too much with others, right? There's the merging quality. You merge too much with another person, with especially the ideal of a person, and then you're left disappointed. Hey, in my chart, I have Venus and Neptune the same degree, 17 degrees. So I'm also kind of in this with you, Venus and Pisces. So I am saying this with love. But yeah, having Venus and Pisces can suggest that you can be overly idealistic. You can fall in love with a dream, right? You can fall in love with a version of someone only to later learn that the dream, the vision, the ideal does not align with the reality. Now, this could also be where there's a couple of directions this could go. This could be where the mask of another person slips off. We all wear masks. We all, in the past, I've talked about the first house, and this is when I really started learning about astrology. And there's so many things that I look back and I'm like, I would do that differently. But the first house can look at our mask. And this is more about this first initial stage, right? When we first really greet someone new, for example. But there's many layers to us. But it's still that mask, I suppose. I think anyway, it's still sort of a part of us. It's still there. It's not like it just completely is gone, right? But the whole mask thing that I'm trying to get at with Venus and Pisces is that the mask can slip off and then you really see another person's true intentions, right? We kind of think again about the shapeshifter, disguises. Disguises are linked to Pisces. The costume wearing, right? So this could be where if you have Venus in Pisces, you fall for someone who really presented this version of themselves that was like, I'm going to give you the world and I love you so much and we're meant to be together. But then you soon realize that their intentions were not pure. Their intentions were not genuine. And then you, as someone with Venus in Pisces, you are left feeling so disheartened. You're left feeling disappointed. This can be a difficult energy to work with. But let's not even think about it in such, well, we have sort of went that way in terms of more of an extreme case, right? Okay. But there's even just more basic ways that this can play out where, for example, we all have different layers to us. we all have different ways that we sort of present ourselves to others and ways that we show up, just depending on who we're around and depending on the sort of stages we're at within a relationship, for example. But even within those more basic sides to relationships, if you have Venus in Pisces, there can still be the I wasn't expecting that. I didn't know that you had that side to you. I'm so like it's not what I thought. You can kind of just project your own fantasies onto other people, you see. But that's a fantasy. It's not real. It's not real. So then that can also lead to the disappointment stuff. So I think with this one, it's an interesting one. I mean, even with having Venus and Pisces, there is that ability to dream, right? That can also be a beautiful thing too, right? You can sort of sit down with your friends or with your partner and kind of think about, oh, we should do this and we should go here and let's live here and oh, this is so enjoyable, woo, and that yeah, that can be fun too. Okay, so we're going to move on to the Decans. Where are we? Okay, great. Hello to openings. Hello to Wanda. Hello to Albert. Awesome. Okay, so we're going to get onto these Decans. So I feel like I've really touched on a lot of the Piscean themes today, which is good. We've been able to get through quite a bit. So to explore the 3 Pisces Decans, each sign is split into 30 degrees, and then there's further split into 3 element triplicities. So this is looking at the modern Decans. So if you were born from the 18th of February until the 28th of February, you would be within the Pisces Decan. So this would be from 0 to 10 degrees. So let's say, for example, your sun is at 5 degrees in Pisces, you would be part of the Pisces Decan. But if, for example, you were born with Mars in Pisces around 12 degrees, you would be part of the Pisces Cancer Decan. So the Cancer Decan is from 10 till 20 degrees, typically around the 29th of February until the 9th of March. Now, just when it comes to these dates, I'm more so looking at the sun, thinking about the sun. But then lastly, we have here the Scorpio Decan. So if you were born with Venus in Pisces around 28 degrees, you would be part of that Pisces Scorpio Decan. Venus would be. But so basically the third decan is from 20 to 30 degrees. And then if you were born around the 12th of March until the 19th of March, you would be part of that Pisces Scorpio Decan. So do keep the decans in mind. But what does Pisces teach us? Detaching ourselves from reality and spending time alone can be incredibly healing. I would even say very therapeutic. Nobody truly knows why we are here. It is a mystery. It is the unknown, okay? A little bit of the unknown. There is no one or correct way to live life. Our dreams, visions, and intuition have something of value to say, right? I even think about this in terms of the imagination, how powerful the imagination can be. There are certain people who can imagine things very clearly in a very crisp, sharp way. Certain people, not so much. Certain people may not really be able to like visualize or see images in their minds. If I was to say to you right now to think of a red apple, can you visualize that in your mind? What does it look like? Is it solid? Is it vivid? What color is it? Can you see the color of the apple in your mind? Yeah, this is very Piscean, very Piscean. Even when we do imagine, it's the feelings associated with our imagination. So when you are in maybe more of a when you're relaxing, basically, when you're in that relaxation state, when you do start to let your mind wander, how does that feel, right? Where does your mind go? How does your mind get lost? Maybe that's another thing with having Mercury and Pisces, kind of going back to earlier. Mercury and Pisces folks are able to allow their minds to wander. And that is a beautiful thing, right? This is where we notice new things coming to light. This is where we notice other ideas that we could not see before, that we did not come up with before, because we allowed our minds to wander, to get curious about the unknown. Very Pisces. It's possible to be part of this world, but to also not be part of it at the same time. When I think about this, okay, this is maybe going to sound a little bit ridiculous, but I'm going to go with it. What I have been thinking about recently is, right, you know how you can get those little tiny like germs on your skin. Even this morning, right, I was reading a book and there was the tiniest little bug in the book, and I forget the name of them. Are they like paper bugs or something like that? But I don't know. But the whole point is, like, that's a tiny bug. But then I'm this huge human compared to this tiny bug. But then an elephant is like huge compared to me. But I'm tiny compared to the elephant. And then when we zoom out on planet Earth, it's like, yes, the Earth, from my view, from our view, it's like the Earth is massive. It's huge. But when you zoom out further and further into outer space, you notice that it's tiny then. I think it's just more about this whole thing to do with Pisces, where it's like, what is time? What is space? What is this in between? Like, whenever I'm sitting here and I'm looking across at my bookshelf, like, what's happening there? What am I not seeing? What light is helping me see? Um, but there's just so much that I don't see. Is there some other spirit in between me and this bookcase? Oh, paranormal stuff can very much be linked to Pisces, the spiritual world. Yeah. So it's seeing that, we're a part of this world, but we're also not a part of this world. That, we're connected with everything, but we're also in our own sort of separateness at the same time. Yeah. Your emotions can be your greatest, I was supposed to say greatest, your greatest teacher. Wow. Right? Your emotions have so much to tell you about yourself, about your experiences, about your relation to the world around you. The answers you seek are there. You just need to be still enough to listen. Just to be still enough. Pisces says you have the answers within you. You know what the next step is. Compassion towards others and yourself can go a long way. And possessing inner faith and wisdom cannot be taken away from you. I love that one. Your inner faith, right? You think about Sagittarius, the Sagittarius side of Jupiter. This is also linked to faith and wisdom, but there is the seeking quality to Sagittarius. You think about religion, for example, and just the sort of organized religion way of doing things. But Pisces says, but I have the answers within me. My spiritual relationship is mine and mine only. And I don't need to explain myself. Like, I don't need to explain why I believe in what I believe. This is what I believe, right? It's this inner faith. So yeah, cannot be taken away from you. It's that personal, I suppose, relationship that you have with source or creation or spirit, with God, however you want to put it, whatever you believe in, I suppose. Then lastly, it's important not to dissolve yourself to the point of not being an individual. Aries. This is where we go back to the beginning, right? Like just like the two fish, right? Notice how the two fish were going in a circular motion, the circle. What's this mean? Eternity. What's this mean? When I think about eternity, I'm like, oh, it scares me. But yeah, there's the never ending process. When it comes to astrology, it's like, yes, there are the endings to do with Pisces, and then we boom right back to the beginning again with Aries. And again, this is where we see the reincarnation part of it, right? Where you go up into that spiritual realm, and then boom, you're born again via Aries, via the first house, right? The head comes out back into the world, back in to do another incarnation. Woohoo! Right? Another cycle comes in. But yes, it's certainly interesting to think about, isn't it? Yeah, so quick story. Hello to Victoria. Hi, welcome to you. Quick story. When I was talking about eternity there, right? So when I was a kid, right, so basically I was raised in a Christian household. And of course, with Christianity, the belief is that whenever you die and you are a believer, you believe that Jesus died on the cross for you, that you will go to heaven and you will have eternal life, right? So I'm in the car, and I'm a kid at this stage, like I'm quite young. I'm in the car, and I'm sitting in the back seat, and we're passing all of these trees, rows and rows and rows of trees. And you know how because you're going so fast in the vehicle, they speed past you. And I remember when I was looking at these trees and I was thinking, eternity? That that's forever? And then I was thinking more like, forever? 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 What? And it really scared me. It really scared me. I was thinking, do I really want to be in some afterlife forever? Do I? Is this what I want? But then it's the whole other thing with that in terms of the opposite, right? If you don't follow Christ, then you go to hell, and then you suffer in hell forever and ever and ever. And I can't seem to wrap my head around that. I just think in general, it's a really trippy it's a trippy thing to think about. You would lose your mind. And this is so Pisces. You could really lose your mind going into the rabbit hole. And that whole thing of just like forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. And you're like, so anyway, it's a lot. It can be a lot to process. Okay, so we're going to get into the strengths of Pisces. Have you ever thought that about eternity? Oh, okay, so the strengths of Pisces: artistic, creative, imaginative, beautiful. Like I was saying, right? Pisces folks can be some of the most creative, artistic people, great songwriters, great painters, great just writers in general. Let me see here. Great photographers as well, filmmakers. They seek to empathize with other people's emotions. Yeah. Empathy can go such a long way. But of course, when it comes to empathy, it's also important to recognize that, you know, being empathetic towards others doesn't necessarily mean that we have to put up with their negative behaviors or their SH1T, right? We don't have to put up with that. They allow for their stream of consciousness to flow, but I think the stream of consciousness really flows whenever Pisces are aligned with what is really meaningful to them and what they enjoy, what speaks to their soul, So yeah, there is that stream of consciousness. Free spirited, My gosh, you cannot tie down to Pisces. No, similar to Sagittarius. But yeah, Pisces will literally swim away, right? Think about Sagittarius, they will gallop away, right? The horse, they're galloping away. Bye. Pisces is also the same. Like they're swimming, they're swam away, they've disappeared. You're never going to see them again. There's this type of attitude. So yeah, it just depends, I suppose, on how you treat them. But really, they're free spirited and they are loving and they can be rather romantic as well. Um, sensitive and emotionally aware. They can be emotionally aware of themselves, of other people around them. They can be kind, they can be sympathetic, they can be so supportive. Oh my goodness. Yes. And they can be quite sentimental, right? Pisceans can be quite sentimental. Certain things that they own, it's like, oh, I remember this, and kind of similar to Cancer, but yeah, there can be a strong sort of emotional attachment that Pisces possesses to people, places, and things. Hospitable as well. I imagine Pisces as being great hosts, right? If you kind of go around to their house and they'll get you sorted with some nice food, nice drink, like they're really going to make you feel at home. Pisces can also be highly generous and charitable, right? They may actually literally give to charity, but there's still the charitable qualities, and that's, they have so much to give. And this doesn't just have to be money, it doesn't have to be resources. This could be their time, right? This is the type of attitude where it says, hey, you know what, Pisces, they're willing to do anything for you, right? You are being approached by a Pisces on the street, they're going to stop and they're going to have a chat with you, if you get on, just if you're in their good books. Okay. If you're not in their good books, they're probably going to try and hide. Okay. Okay, just remember that they can hide, like escape route, and you out of here. Or if they're really like you and you're a nice person, they're going to be there. They have a healing and calming presence, very calming, very serene. And they can often also come across as very sweet and gentle. And hey, do you know what? Pisces can also come across as so wise, so incredibly wise. This is emotional wisdom, this is spiritual wisdom. We love to see it. So we're going to look at the weaknesses of Pisces now. So the weaknesses, some of these include being susceptible to emotional manipulation. Well, like I was saying earlier, can possess a very dark side. They can be sneaky. Pisces can often play the victim, okay? They'll start something, right? They'll be involved in something. Could possibly be something criminal, okay? Think about Pisces is tied to prison, right? Just saying. We love you, Pisces. But it could be something quite criminal, right? Something a bit dodgy. And then it's like, oh, I didn't know. Me, So, oh my gosh, yeah. There can be those qualities, and they can also lack a backbone. Pisces can lack a backbone, where and again, we all have these more difficult qualities, challenging qualities. We've been talking about them through every sign, and I'm saying this because I know Pisces, you can be very sensitive, but I am coming from a place of love, kindness, and I'm just kind of being more factual, more like objective in terms of this information, really. Okay, but yeah, can lack a backbone where they can be like these doormats and pushovers, letting people get away with things, letting things slide. And then other people around them can get really annoyed because it's like, why are you not saying anything? Can you not see that you not saying anything is impacting you, or it's impacting the situation? Why do you not just own up to it? Why do you not just stand up for yourself? So there's that. Also can be delusional. disturbed at times, just really disturbed, really confused about things. Yeah, so we've kind of touched on these qualities to do with Pisces, but yeah, and even on that note, I want to say with these qualities that if you are a Piscean and there's perhaps more of these disturbed sort of qualities happening for you, I think this is where it's important to be able to reach out for some type of support or assistance. Just let people know like how you're doing. I think Pisces, you can have the tendency of just keeping a lot in, right? You think about the 12th house again. See, the 12th house can also look at what is hidden, like I was saying earlier, the hidden parts of ourselves. So when you think of it like that, you can hide a lot, right? You can sort of present like, I'm fine, I'm good, I'm doing really well, actually. But on the inside, you're not actually doing well, you're actually struggling, you need some help. So, I think in that way, it is important to be able to just let people know. Maybe there's even a part of you, Pisces, that wishes other people would check in on you more. That's another thing. Okay. But yeah, just wanted to say that more so from a place of like, I can empathize with you. They can also be the martyr, right? Where it's like, oh, Pisces, I have it worse. Oh, I hurt my back there the other day. And then Pisces is just like, oh, you hurt your back. Well, I hurt my entire spine. I can't walk. You know, it's like, oh, I've got a cold. It's like, oh, you've got a cold. Oh, I've got the flu. I've got it so much worse. Yeah. So there can be those qualities. And then as well, the whole martyr thing of like martyring themselves in the name of others, thinking, oh, I'm going to martyr myself for this situation, or I'm going to even save this person. I'm going to rescue them. I'm going to be their savior. Haha. This is where we can, this is where we notice some issues, right? Issues can arise here. So I think in this way, it's important for Pisces, again, to learn these healthier boundaries, even just to be able to hold themselves accountable for things. They can at times avoid responsibility. They can bury their heads in the sand, especially when life is just too difficult, right? It's too difficult, it's too much to handle. But this is also where support can come into handy. Can be handy rather. Vague, can be vague, can be dishonest, can be immoral. Whew. Can sort of misdirect other people a bit and can get caught up in too much daydreaming. Okay, not enough action. It's just like la 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 la. I'm just gonna dream about this situation and not do anything. Like nothing's really going to get done then. But anyway, that's the weaknesses of Pisces. But again, I said from a place of love. Okay, I'm not here attacking any Pisces. Okay, so we're gonna now move on to some journaling questions to ask yourself: do I allow my imagination to run wild? Am I able to go with the flow in life and trust my intuition? How sensitive am I to the world around me? When do I merge myself with others? When do I lose myself? Which people do I feel a spiritual connection with? Can I relax and let go? How does music and art move me? Any that truly speaks to me? Have I ever experienced psychic events in my life? So just take some time to contemplate, to think about those questions. All right. Oh, Alana, you said that you think you feel that way about eternity. You have Jupiter and Pisces as well. Oh, interesting. Interesting. And thank you so much for Truth, for all of your comments, for being very engaging today. Thank you. All right, so we're moving on to this section. Couple of houses. Where is Pisces in your chart? Which house does Pisces rule in your natal chart? Because this is going to show you the area of life where you dream and where you imagine. It's also going to show you where you connect with a higher power. It's connected with your spiritual practices, where you can be sensitive as well, right? Where you can be quite emotional, where you can even be overwhelmed by emotion. It's also going to be a house that will show you or represent a part of you actually that is free. This freedom part of quality, these freedom qualities, compassion, kindness, unconditional love as well. We share our inner wisdom and we trust, right? There really is a lot of trust when it comes to Pisces. I think even often Pisces can trust the wrong types of people, right? They can be too trusting at times. Still, this is a house that is going to be tied to your creativity, to helping others, charity as well. Excuse me, I was too close to the mic there. Um, it's also going to be a house where it's tied to inspiration. There's a lot of healing to be performed or that is performed within the Pisces house. And vulnerability. Let's remember that when it comes to Pisces, it's a highly vulnerable sign. It teaches us a lot about vulnerability. Also, look for the ruling planet of your Pisces house, Jupiter. This is going to provide more information about how your Pisces house plays out. Right, so now we're on to this section. Do you have any houses you want to throw at me? And I will do three. I will do three houses. If not, I can just go for a couple from the top of my head, just go for whatever. Okay, so we got the first house. Thank you very much. So, of course, the first house looks at our identity. It looks at our physical appearance as well. I'm assuming Pisces rising then. So, if you have a Pisces rising, what this suggests is that you can come across as really quite kind and is quite sweet, quite impressionable as well. You can sort of pick up on the energies of other people. You can sort of absorb other people's emotions around you too. And you can also be sensitive, very sensitive to other people's feelings, even to the environment, right? To the environment. And your clothing and the way that you look, the way that you dress may showcase some type of spiritual essence, or there's just something spiritual about the way you come across. The way you present yourself can be seen as quite spiritual, or do you know what, as just quite like go with the flow, right? Even when it comes to your life path, there can be more of a go with the flow energy. And it's more about your following your intuition, following your inner guide. Okay, so the fifth house, we have a fifth house one as well. Thank you very much, by the way. Fifth house. All right, so the fifth house, of course, looks at things like enjoyment, pleasure, entertainment, or hobbies. Oh my gosh, if you have Pisces in the fifth, you lose yourself in your art, you lose yourself in your creativity, in your hobbies. I mean, my partner has Pisces in the fifth house, and currently he is painting at the minute, so there's just this real like flow that you get into when it comes to your creativity. You can really lose yourself in the moment, and there's the whole thing, of course, to do with Pisces, the stream of consciousness. It's like whenever you get into that flow, it's just everything else around you is just you drown it. It's drowned out. You don't pay attention to it. So yeah, I would even say if you have Pisces in the fifth house, you may gravitate toward, things related, hobbies related to photography, film. But yeah, I would say something artistic and creative being a big part of your life. And lastly, the second house. All right, so you were asking about the second house. So the second house, of course, looks at our resources, our self-worth, our materials, our physical security. So if you have Pisces in the second house, now it could be that you're actually highly charitable, right? You can have this attitude of, giving away your resources, giving away your money, and maybe as a way to help someone else out, to help someone else in need of it, to support another person, for example. But you see, I think even though there can be that sort of generous giving of your resources and your time, giving of your time as well, there's also this trust. I think if you have Pisces in the second house, there's a trust in that whatever you give out, it's sort of going to come back, right? It's like you trust that you're going to also receive, that like the money that is given, it's going to be received again. It can be this whole attitude of like, why should I attach heavily to these things? It is what it is. What will be, will be. There could be that sort of spiritual attitude, I suppose you could say, when it comes to the material world. Okay, so we've done 3 of those houses. Thank you very much. And also, let me see. Yes, so Truth, you said you've got Pisces moon in the first house. Hello, David. Welcome to you. Hope you're doing good. And Rachel, you said yes, you've got 5th house Pisces moon. Your brother's got Pisces in the 5th. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I do feel like the 5th house it's very, very artistic indeed. And then David, you say you've got Pisces in the 5th and the 6th in yours. Interesting. Well, I hope the 5th house part resonated with you. Okay, so any planet in Pisces? What Pisces planets do you have in your natal chart? Because these are going to be the parts of your personality tied to those Piscean traits. We've talked about this sign extensively today, and I hope that you've been able to get a lot from the information. So the Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, and Rising are going to be personal planets. Jupiter, Chiron, and Saturn are going to be more social, more interpersonal planets. And then Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto are going to be more generational planets, right? So wherever Jupiter is placed will tell you more information about these planets of yours. So make sure that you look to your Jupiter sign. Where is Jupiter located? Jupiter is also going to be the dispositor of your Pisces planets. And do, of course, as always, consider aspects. We always want to look at the bigger picture when it comes to astrology, which, by the way, there's going to be a video coming to the channel to do with aspect patterns and chart shapes. So yes, also consider the aspects to your Pisces planets, and do consider houses linked to those planets as well. I know there's just so much to look at. I hope you find this to be helpful anyway. And remember, Decans, okay, Pisces, Cancer, and Scorpio. All right. So lastly, let's just go over then a quick reminder of these planets. So we have the left-hand side, we've got the Sun, which is our vitality, our purpose. We've got emotions tied to the moon. So the moon looks at emotions, our inner self. We've got Mercury there. So this would be communication, our thought process. We've got Venus, would be values, worth, relationships. Then we have Mars, which would be drive, motivation, and our willpower. Just remembered as well there, thinking about the Sun. I want to say happy birthday to you, David. Your son, of course, is in Pisces. And I was just like, yes, happy birthday to you. I can't remember what day that you said it was on, but if it hasn't been yet, I hope you have a great birthday. If it already has been, I hope you had a great birthday. So yeah, also this center part. So we have Jupiter. Now, Jupiter looks at exploration and benevolence. The last time Jupiter was in Pisces was from 2021 until 2022. Then we have Saturn here. Saturn looks at maturity and success. And wouldn't you know, Saturn is in Pisces right now. It will continue to be in Pisces until 2026. And then the last time Chiron was in Pisces was from 2010 until 2018. Of course, Chiron looks at our wounds and integration. Now, we get to the generational planets, and this is where I want to share a couple of just fun facts to do with these generational planets. So Uranus is about innovation and social change. Uranus was in Pisces from 2003 until 2010. So what we have here, if I just move this slightly up, yeah. So what we have here is that in 2004, Facebook was made. You think about technological advancements, technological shifts, inventions to do with Uranus. Like I was saying earlier, Pisces looks at different worlds, right? Pisces looks at fantasy. Pisces rules the make believe. Pisces is very much connected with things like YouTube and film, things like this. So Facebook came out in 2004, and then YouTube came out in 2005. And then we also want to look at here how Neptune was in Pisces from 2011, and it is still in Pisces. Oh, it's mad. The trance is just so long. But yeah, Neptune is in Pisces from 2000. It has been in Pisces since 2011, all the way up until 2026. So we've still got a couple of years of Neptune in Pisces, certainly a long transit. But Neptune looks at distortions. It's tied to spirituality. And hey, in 2011, Gaia TV came out, right? That super sort of spiritual TV, that network that came out. So that was in 2011. And then we also notice, we want to kind of think more sensitively about this, but I'm going to spell this out actually for kind of certain purposes, but BOMBINGS, these things basically, they really showed up in the 2010s. I've talked about Neptune in Pisces over on my Instagram. If you want more information about Neptune being in Pisces, make sure to check out the Neptune in Pisces post. You can find it. You can find it on my highlights, right? There's the Neptune signs highlights. But also in 2012, marijuana was legalized in certain states in the USA. So very much Piscean themes, Neptunian themes. And then lastly, we have here the last time that Pluto was in Pisces was from 1797 until 1823. Pluto looks at regeneration and power. And it was during this time that we noticed the Romantic period. The Romantic period was from the late 1700s until the early 1800s. Like I was saying earlier, Pisces is very much tied to romance. But you kind of think about this in terms of romanticism, right? How we can romanticize. Even I think about how often YouTube can be a way of romanticizing things. You think about certain influencers and it's like, oh, this is my morning routine. This is my evening routine. It's definitely romanticized. It's like, oh, I want that. I want that. Oh, that's so nice. That would be lovely. It's just a YouTube video. It's just a YouTube video. It's not real, right? It's probably all set up and staged and all this all perfect, all perfect. Yeah. I hope you get what I mean. So we have our own sort of versions of romanticism within the modern world, don't we? Haha. Okay, so that is us. Thank you all so much for being here. If I just shift that a little bit, we bring it back. Happy days. Awesome. So yeah, thank you so much for listening, everybody. And if you would like to book a reading with me, you can do so by going to hannahselsewhere.com. And also, if you did enjoy this presentation today, you can always buy me a coffee. But of course, no pressure. And just even to remind you that registration is still open for the Annual Perfections Workshop, which you can find down below if you're interested in joining the workshop. It would be cool to have you there. Thank you all so much for being here. Great. Yes. Thank you to Spiritual Anarchy, to Truth, David. Thank you. And thank you as well to Rachel. Perfect. Yes. I hope you all have a great day. And again, all you solar Pisceans, it's your season. Happy birthday, Pisces. Hope you have a great time. And I will be back, actually. I'm going to be back on Sunday because we are going to be talking about the new moon in Pisces. It's going to be an interesting one. Take care, everyone, and I will see you very soon.